Hey, you, come here. Do you want to see a dead body? How about a roasted duck? Well, fret not, this isn't some sort of weird, mystical, evil trolley problem, because you get to see both at the same time. We are at halftime at the Oregon-Ohio State game. Oregon fans are in shambles. Ohio State fans laughing their asses off, and the score is 34-8. But what just happened? How did we get here? Well, to answer that, dear viewer, we're going to have to do what we do so well.
What we do here is go back.
But first, if you are like me, you love cracking packs. I mean, I've done it all from Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and some football pack, and I even have some ungraded cards that I absolutely love, like the Stonehouse Special Edition back-to-back record-breaking season card, a dual threat Tom Brady punting card, Marquette King running for a first down, and a couple others. But if you want to relive that memory, you came to the right place, because there's nothing like busting open a pack and the excitement of what you could get inside, which is why I'm happy to present today's sponsor, Arena Club. Arena Club offers slab packs that you can score gem mints in for a fraction of the retail price. And every time you rip a pack, Arena Club will make you an instant offer for your card based on its current market value. No guessing, no waiting, and no getting lowballed because you're automatically getting 90% of its estimated value. And while some may be skeptical of the repack game, Arena Club is revolutionizing it with its transparency, showing you a total list of every available card and clear hit rates for each one. On top of all of that, each different pack type has a grail card, so you always have something to aim for, such as a Michael Jordan Fleer Beckett, a Panini Prism Kobe Bryant Black Gold, or Tom Brady National Treasures. So if you miss the feeling of cracking packs, go get a slab pack today. Use code PUNCH to get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase. That's a full 20% off using code PUNCH. So check it out. Crack a pack, relive a little bit of your childhood, crack responsibly. Thank me later. The first thing that we're going to take a look at is the team who just got embarrassed, because as you can imagine, if they were a bad team or even a meddling team, this wouldn't be a particularly embarrassing thing to happen. But Oregon was actually far and away the best team in the country in 2024. In their first year in the Big Ten, they had a regular season point to prove, while their Week 2 game looked to set them back as they barely pulled out a win over Boise State, requiring not one, but 2 special teams touchdowns. We later learned that this Boise State team had one of the best running backs of all time who wouldn't lose another game all season before Oregon's dominating run began. They'd beat their little brothers to the north before taking on a true Big Ten blue blood, the UCLA Bruins, and man, just imagine somebody waking up and this is the first game they watched after a 5-year coma. But anyway, they beat them handily, fly in Michigan State where they take them to Pound Town before having their biggest test of the season, because while the SEC was eating itself alive, the Big Ten pecking order was firmly in line. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and Indiana, all firmly at the top, and coming to them was Ohio State, and man, we got everything we bargained for. A brilliant back and forth, Ohio State jumping to a lead, Oregon coming back but missing the go-ahead field goal, then the Buckeyes make it an 8-point affair before the Ducks score, spike an onside kick off the front line, then kick a field goal to retake the lead for 6 minutes, which is how long it took the Buckeyes to score before finally scoring again to enter the half 22-21 in their favor. And this battle would continue going back and forth in the second half until Oregon, with 1 minute and 47 seconds left on the clock, kicks the field goal to set up the final drive, where in the final seconds of the game, arguably just outside of field goal range, Will Howard accidentally runs out all the clock as the Buckeyes lose 32-31 in just heartbreaking fashion. They would then show no mercy to Purdue, Illinois, Michigan, and Maryland, as they, in the first 3 quarters of the season, didn't just have have a good run, but one of the most dominating runs of all time, as they were averaging 35.7 points a game while holding their opponents to under 20 points 8 out of the 10 times, with the only outliers being the second best team in the country and taking on Ashton Jeanty before they realized that he was a certified stamped and sealed problem. Then they had their one randomly close game, as the Big Ten West is going to do Big Ten West things, as Wisconsin held them to just 16 points before taking out that low scoring frustration on the Huskies in dominating fashion and going to the Big Ten Championship to take on Penn State, where despite its close score, Oregon had the lead from the very first drive, and with a little late game defensive heroics were able to end the potentially game tying 2-minute drill. But in the wings, watching this, waiting for their opportunity to strike, was that Ohio State's Buckeyes team they beat so long ago. You see, things after that Oregon game didn't exactly go swimmingly for them. The following week, they went up to take Nebraska and had to fight tooth and nail for a 4-point victory, then took on Penn State and fought tooth and nail once again for a win, stopping their game-tying scoring attempt 4 times from inside the 5-yard line to eventually run out the clock for 5 minutes before getting their reprieve against Purdue and Northwestern, and seeing Indiana on the rise and nipping it in the butt in short fashion, where they would have to take on Michigan, where for the 3rd year in the row, they just couldn't catch a break, as in a brutal game of attrition would miss 2 field goals and lose by 3 points. Their amazing season disrupted by a 6-4 team, forced now to watch Penn State and Oregon duke it out. Not just that, but despite their record, the fan base wanted Ryan Day's head on a silver platter. But that loss to Michigan seemed to awaken something. Usually, they'd be looking forward to the Pop-Tart Bowl with 2 losses, but this season, there was a newly implemented 12-team playoff, and even though missing out on being a top 4 team meant they'd have a long 4-game march to get to the national championship, and with how deep the SEC claimed it was, any one of their mid to bottom seeds being able to be a contender any year, it meant there'd be no jokes getting through a stacked Tennessee team. I mean, we're talking about a team who beat Alabama. They beat Oklahoma. Hell, did you see what they did to Kent State? Those guys had families, man. And yeah, they lost to Georgia and Arkansas randomly, but many saw that as comparable to what Ohio State went through. Randomly lose to a middle-of-the-pack team, lose to the best team in your conference, but have some impressive wins, and now it was time to see the Big Ten compared to the SE. Oh my God! Ohio State's first 4 drives had them going 261 yards and throwing 4 completed passes into the end zone, with the only saving grace for the Volunteers being that one of those passes was completed to them. And their answer in that time was putting together a whopping 11 offensive yards as the score sat at 21-0 in the start of the second quarter. Now they were able to pull within 11 points with 2 big end-of-half drives, but they could only stop the slaughtering for so long. After receiving the ball in the second half and punting, the floodgates reopened. The 2-headed dragon of Smith and Igbuka was in full effect. 3 more drives, 3 more touchdowns compared to the Volunteers' 32 second half yards to this point, and it was an absolute rout, with Ryan Day calling the Dogs off with a score of 42-10, and they had end of game garbage time touchdown to make this game look a little better than it actually was. Now, while many saw this as an opportunity to absolutely windmill slam the SEC homers who had been talking trash about the Big Ten because of Indiana's performance earlier, Oregon was watching and laughing rather nervously because of just how deadly this Ohio State team suddenly looked. But the worst part was that there was another trend about to start. The following week, the teams that got a bye week were dropping like flies. Boise State handily defeated by the Nittany Lions. Arizona State succumbed to the Texas Longhorns. And even more than that, you know that embarrassing loss that Ohio State had to Michigan? Well, that was beginning to look a little bit rectified as Michigan went to a bowl game against Alabama. No punches pulled, no starters set, and won, showing that their defense in the evening of this season was actually that dang good. And it just took them a while to figure it out, leading to Game 3 of the quarterfinals. Ohio State taking on the only other team that beat them in the regular season, and after the kickoff, the game was close for about 60 seconds. 2 passes accounted for 75 yards of field position and a touchdown. The Ducks drove 9 yards and were forced to punt, where luckily they held off another Ohio State offensive attack after they picked up 42 yards, but the Ducks only found 2 yards on their second drive, and that might as well have been where you called the game. Smith had the first 40-plus yard touchdown. That means that the other head of the Dragon got the second, as Howard found Igbuka for 42 yards. A drive later, and they were miraculously held to a field goal, but in a show of desperation, before the game gets totally out of hand, as if it weren't already, the Ducks attempt the 4th down conversion and come up short. And there were exactly 6 plays between the Buckeyes having a 17-point lead and a 31-point lead. And 3 of those plays were the Ducks going 3 and out, meaning that yes, the Buckeyes scored twice in 3 plays. The first off of a pass to Smith for 43 yards and a touchdown, and then you know what? Let's get Henderson a little action as he went 66 yards for a tutty. And the icing on the cake is they forced the punt again, drive 43 yards to kick a field goal, and all of a sudden, the score was 34-0. Oregon simply had no answer this time around for the two-headed Dragon. The Ohio State offense put up 390 yards in the half compared to Oregon's 64 to this point, and while Oregon in the waning seconds of the half would put up a 75-yard drive to cut the lead to 26, I think the #1 team, giving no signs all season of being paper tigers, getting stomped this hard in a half of a game might just be the most embarrassing half in playoff history.